My stepson said, "You'll never be half the man my dad is." So I took him off my insurance and sent his bills to his dad. His face froze when his dad refused to pay. Subscribe to the channel and share your stories in the comments. And now, let's get started. When I married Emily, I thought love could be architecture. Something you design, measure, and build with patience until it stands on its own. She had a son, Ryan. I had one too, Jake. 2 boys, 2 histories, 1 house near Austin. I told myself we'd become a single line instead of 2 parallel ones. I added Ryan to my insurance, my phone plan, my car coverage. Paid both tuitions, both allowances, both everything. I wanted equality to mean peace. Tom, Ryan's biological father, lived just half an hour away. Not far enough to be called gone, not close enough to be called present. He drifted in for birthdays, for Christmas, for those public moments that made him look like a father without requiring the work of one. Ryan waited for those visits like a starving child waits for sugar. And when Tom did appear, with new sneakers or a signed football, the air in the house shifted. Ryan glowed. Emily softened. I became invisible. Still, I kept trying. Cookouts on weekends, small family trips to Lake Travis, long talks about college. I called him son, even when he refused to call me anything at all. I thought consistency would earn respect. But I learned the first lesson of a blended family: you can't buy balance with effort alone. The change began quietly. At first Ryan just withdrew. Short answers, eyes always somewhere else. Then came the jokes, little barbs coated in teenage irony. "Don't worry, Mom," he'd say with a grin. My real dad wouldn't make me clean the garage. Emily would roll her eyes, tell him to stop, but her tone never carried weight. The words hung in the air, staining the moment, and I'd pretend I didn't hear. Weeks passed. The distance turned into defiance. I'd ask him to mow the lawn, he'd laugh. Maybe later. Later never came. I'd find plates in the sink, shoes on the couch, homework undone. When I reminded him of rules, he'd turn to Emily, not to me, and ask, "Do I have to?" She always sighed, the same tired sigh. "Yes, Ryan. Please, just listen to him. Please." That word burned. It made me a guest in my own home, begging through her mouth for authority I should have had by right of everything I paid for. Then Jake noticed. My own boy, watching the imbalance take shape like a bruise. "Why can Ryan be rude and I can't?" he asked one night. I didn't answer. What could I say? That fairness ends where bloodlines begin? The tension built like humidity before a storm. Meals turned silent. Ryan scrolled on his phone through dinner, earbuds in, nodding only when Emily spoke. He laughed at messages from friends while I sat across from him. Invisible. I tried patience. I told myself he was a teenager, that boys grow into respect the way trees grow into shade, slowly, stubbornly. Then came the night that patience cracked. We'd taken a new family photo earlier that week. Me, Emily, Jake, and Ryan on the porch. When the pictures came back, I noticed something. Ryan wasn't looking at the camera. His face was turned slightly away, jaw clenched, expression hard. Everyone else smiled. He looked like he wanted to escape the frame. That evening, I found him in the living room with his friends, playing games online. They were loud, laughing, cursing through their headsets. I heard my own name, Davis, followed by laughter. I stopped at the doorway. "Everything good in here?" Ryan muted his mic, looked over his shoulder. "Yeah, fine." But one of the boys' voices carried through the speaker. "Yo, your stepdad's strict again?" Ryan smirked. "He tries. But whatever. I hate that I have to use Davis as my last name on school forms. It's embarrassing." The words didn't echo. They detonated. The room went still except for the hum of the console. My heart pounded, slow and heavy. "What did you say?" I asked. Ryan turned fully then, face blank, unbothered. "You heard me." "I did. I want you to say it to my face." He shrugged. "Fine. I don't want your name. You're not my dad." No shouting. No hesitation. Just truth, stripped of everything polite. His friends went silent on the line. Emily wasn't home. Maybe that was a mercy. For a long second, I couldn't breathe. 6 months of tolerance, 6 months of swallowing pride, ended in a single sentence from a boy whose phone bill I paid. I left the room without another word. I walked to the kitchen, poured water, stared out the window until the glass fogged under my breath. My hands shook. The laughter upstairs resumed, softer now, nervous, but it came back. Always did. When Emily got home, I told her what happened. She froze, dish towel in her hand. "He didn't mean it," she said quickly. "He's just angry. You know how teens are." "Angry about what? Living rent-free? Driving a car he didn't pay for?" She frowned. "Please don't turn this into something bigger." But it was already bigger. It was everything. That night, I lay awake while she slept beside me. Ryan's words kept looping through my head, like static I couldn't shut off. "You're not my dad. I don't want your name." I tried to tell myself it was just rebellion. But rebellion fades. Disrespect calcifies. The next morning, breakfast was a performance. Ryan came down late, still half asleep, poured cereal, ignored me. I said, "Good morning." He grunted. Jake watched us like he was studying rules of engagement. "Ryan," I said finally, "we need to talk about what you said last night." He looked up, spoon halfway to his mouth. "Why?" I told the truth. Emily set her mug down too hard. "Ryan, enough." But he didn't stop. "What? I'm supposed to pretend he's my dad?" "He's not. My real dad actually cares about me." That last line landed like a slap. Even Jake winced. Emily's voice cracked. "Ryan, your father barely calls." "He still calls," he shouted, cutting her off. "And at least he doesn't try to control me." I stood up, slow, deliberate. The chair legs scraped against the tile. "Control you? Ryan, I pay for everything you use. That's not control, that's responsibility." He pushed back from the table, defiant. "Then stop. I didn't ask you to." Silence. Pure electric silence. Emily's hand covered her mouth. Jake's eyes darted between us. Ryan stared straight through me, daring me to answer. I didn't. Not then. Because for the first time I understood he wasn't testing boundaries anymore. He was erasing them. The rest of the day, I moved like a man underwater. Work calls, errands, meaningless small talk. All a blur. When I came home, the house felt colder, quieter. Ryan's laughter drifted from upstairs, but it no longer sounded like part of this home. It sounded like something foreign, invasive. Later that week, we were supposed to have dinner together at a small restaurant in town. Emily thought it might smooth things over. Neutral ground, she called it. Somewhere we can all just be together. I agreed against my better judgment. We sat outside, under hanging lights that swayed in the warm wind. The food came. Conversation didn't. Jake talked about school, about the new movie he wanted to see. Ryan scrolled through his phone, nodding occasionally, eyes glowing with blue light. Emily kept forcing smiles, sipping wine too fast. Then, between bites, Ryan muttered, "Mom, can you text Dad? He said he might get me tickets next weekend." Emily glanced at him, startled. "Tom? He hasn't answered my messages for weeks." "He will if I text him," Ryan said. Then he looked at me, not directly, but with that sideways smirk teenagers master too early. "He actually picks up when I call." Jake looked down at his plate. Emily froze. I set my fork aside. "Ryan," I said quietly, "that's enough." He leaned back, arms crossed. "I'm just saying. At least he doesn't try to buy respect." The words landed like gravel in my chest. Emily whispered his name, pleading, but I raised a hand. "No, let him speak. Let him say what he really thinks." He met my eyes fully then. "I think you're trying to be something you're not. You'll never be half the man my dad is." The air went dead. Even the music from inside the restaurant seemed to fade. I didn't respond. I simply looked at him until he looked away. The check came a few minutes later. I paid it as always. That night, the house was silent except for the sound of Ryan's door slamming shut. Jake knocked on my study door later. "Dad?" he asked softly. "Are we okay?" Yeah, I said, forcing a smile. We're okay. But inside, something had broken loose. The line between patience and humiliation had vanished. I realized then that a family without balance doesn't tilt slowly. It collapses all at once. The night it all snapped was unremarkable at first. The kind of quiet evening that pretends to be harmless. Emily was grading papers in the kitchen, Jake was at a friend's house, and Ryan was upstairs with his door closed. As always, the house hummed with the dull rhythm of normalcy. I almost believed we were stable again. Then I heard laughter. Not ordinary laughter, the kind that carries cruelty behind it, sharp enough to cut through walls. It came from Ryan's room, his voice and a few others over a video call, their words half-muffled through his headset. I wasn't eavesdropping, not at first. But then my name surfaced, carried on that laughter like a splinter. Man, I hate having to use Davis as my last name. It's embarrassing. The room went still inside me. My pulse stopped, started again. I stood at the bottom of the stairs, listening, making sure I hadn't imagined it. One of the other boys said something, a question, a snicker, and Ryan replied, "Yeah, he's not even my dad. Just some guy my mom married. Thinks he's in charge because he pays for everything." The laughter that followed was pure, cruel teenage mockery. Something in me shifted. It wasn't rage, not yet. It was silence. A silence so deep it hummed in my bones. I climbed the stairs slowly, each step deliberate. My reflection followed me up the dark hallway. A tired man carrying too many years of effort. I stopped outside Ryan's door. The glow of his monitor leaked through the crack like a pulse. I knocked once. "Ryan." He didn't answer. I heard muffled laughter again. I opened the door. He turned in his chair, startled for half a second before regaining that practiced indifference. The kind of look that said I couldn't touch him. His friends' faces flickered across the screen. A grid of smirks and curiosity. "Hey," he said. "What?" I stepped inside. The air smelled like energy drinks and sweat, the stale scent of defiance. "Repeat what you just said." His eyebrows lifted. "What are you talking about? You said you hate having my last name. That I'm not your dad. Say it again." To my face. He leaned back, arms crossed, smirk curling his mouth. "Yeah, I said it. So what? You're not my dad. You just pay bills. That doesn't make you family." For a moment the world narrowed to his voice. I could hear Emily's pen scratching in the kitchen below, the hum of the fridge, the faint creak of the house settling. And beneath it all, the sound of something breaking inside me. "Do you even hear yourself?" I asked. "Everything you touch in this house, everything you eat, wear, drive, it all comes from me. The man you just called, some guy." He shrugged. "I didn't ask you to. That was it. The final fracture. Not the words themselves, but the ease with which he said them." I walked toward him, slow but steady, until the space between us was thin enough for him to smell the anger I was holding back. "You think paying bills doesn't make me family? Fine. Then stop using what I pay for." Ryan frowned, confused. "What are you talking about?" "Your car, your phone, your tuition, your insurance. All of it. If I'm not family, you don't need any of it, do you?" He scoffed. "You're being dramatic." I leaned down, my voice low, calm, dangerous. "No, I'm being exact." He looked away, muttered something to his friends still on the call. I reached over and unplugged the headset. The silence that followed was dense enough to choke on. "Listen to me," I said. "You have a father. His name is Tom. He's 30 minutes away. If my name embarrasses you, go live under his. Go ask him for the things you take from me." He stood abruptly, defiant. "You can't just." "I can," I interrupted, straightening up. "And I will." We stood there, him flushed red with teenage fury, me cold and steady. Two men, one with everything to learn, the other done teaching. "Get out of my room," he hissed. I almost laughed. "Your room," I said. "Nothing in this house belongs to you, Ryan. You're a guest who's mistaken generosity for obligation." His jaw tightened. "You think you can just try me? That was when Emily appeared in the doorway, drawn by the noise. "What's going on?" she asked, her voice pitched high with alarm. I didn't look at her. "Ask your son." Ryan turned to her, desperate for backup. "He's freaking out because I said I don't want his stupid name." Emily froze, eyes darting between us. "Ryan, please." "I'm serious," he cut in. "Why do I have to use his last name anyway? He's not my real dad. Tom is." Something flickered in her eyes. Guilt, maybe, or exhaustion. But she didn't correct him. She didn't defend me. She just whispered, "Let's calm down. Okay? Calm down." The two words every man hears before he loses the right to be angry. I stepped back, looked at both of them. "You know what? You're right, Ryan. I'm not your father. I won't pretend to be anymore." Emily's eyes widened. "What does that mean?" "It means starting tomorrow, Tom gets to be proud of his son in every way, including financially." Ryan frowned, still not understanding. "What are you talking about?" "You'll find out." I left the room before she could follow, before the argument could spill into apologies or excuses. Downstairs, the air felt heavier. I went to my desk, opened my laptop, and stared at the list of names and numbers that represented every link tying me to that boy: insurance, phone plan, tuition portal, car payments, accounts. One by one, I began to erase him. The cursor blinked at me like a heartbeat as I called each company. I gave dates, policy numbers, signatures. My voice was calm, polite, detached. I wasn't angry. I was free. When it was done, I sat back and stared at the dark screen. For the first time in years, I felt no weight on my shoulders. No guilt, no doubt, just clarity. Emily came down after an hour. "What did you do?" she asked, breathless. "I fixed the balance," I said. "I made sure everyone's name is where it belongs." Her voice trembled. "You didn't." "I did. Insurance, tuition, phone. All of it's now under Tom's name. If Ryan wants to be his son, he'll live as his son. No confusion." She stared at me as if she didn't recognize the man standing in front of her. "You can't just make a decision like that without." "I already did." She sank into the chair across from me. "You're going to regret this." I shook my head. "No. Regret is for people who still believe things can change." We sat in silence, the kind that makes walls seem closer. Upstairs, footsteps moved. Ryan pacing, maybe realizing something had shifted beneath him. Finally, Emily whispered, "You're punishing him for being a kid." I met her eyes. "No. I'm teaching him what it costs to spit on the hands that feed him." She stood angry now. "That's cruel." "Cruel," I said slowly, "is letting a boy grow up thinking there are no consequences for contempt." She didn't reply, just turned and went upstairs, her footsteps heavy, her silence louder than any argument. When the house finally went still, I poured myself a drink and sat by the window. The sky outside was a deep, indifferent blue. Somewhere out there, Tom was probably asleep, unaware that tomorrow morning, his responsibilities were coming home. I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel vindicated. I just felt done. Because sometimes silence isn't peace. It's the sound of a man finally choosing to stop fighting a war he's already won, by walking away from the battlefield. Morning broke like any other. Sunlight crawling across the kitchen floor, the smell of burnt toast, the illusion of normalcy. But beneath it all was the quiet hum of a storm waiting to detonate. Ryan came down late, hair tousled, backpack slung over one shoulder. He poured himself cereal, phone in hand, not saying a word. Emily sat across from him, eyes red, the kind of red that comes from a night without sleep. She didn't look at me. Then it started. The phone buzzed in Ryan's hand, once, twice, then a third time. His brow furrowed. "What the hell?" he muttered. "Why isn't my card working?" He opened his banking app. Silence. Then an angry, disbelieving laugh. "Are you kidding me?" He looked up at me, eyes wide. "You canceled my account?" I took a sip of coffee. "No, I transferred it. To your father." "My what?" "Your father. Tom. The man you said you wanted to be proud of." He's in charge now. The spoon in his hand clattered against the bowl. You can't do that. I already did. Emily jumped in, voice brittle. Ryan, calm down. He ignored her. You can't just. This isn't how it works. I need that for gas, for school, for everything. I set my cup down. Then you'd better call Tom. Maybe he can set you up with a new card. He blinked, trying to process the words, like the laws of the world had suddenly changed overnight. You're insane, he said finally. You're actually insane. Emily rose from the table. Please, let's talk about this later. No, I said. We'll talk about it now. Ryan's voice cracked with fury. You think this proves something? You think you're teaching me a lesson? You're just pathetic. The air in the room thickened. Even the clock seemed to stop. I leaned forward. You told me I'm not your father, that I have no right to tell you what to do. I listened. And now, you get what you wanted. No rules, no obligations, and no support. Emily's voice trembled. You're making a point out of cruelty. I turned to her. No, I'm ending an illusion. For years, I've been paying for a child who resents me, raising a boy who mocks me, while the man who abandoned him gets worshipped like a ghost. That ends today. Ryan shoved back his chair, the legs scraping across the tile. You think you can just erase me from your life? Not erase, I said quietly. Release. He stormed out, muttering curses. The front door slammed so hard the windows rattled. Emily looked at me, horror in her eyes. Do you hear yourself? He's a teenager. He doesn't mean what he says. I met her gaze. Then he can prove it. But I'm done funding his disrespect. She turned away, whispering, You'll regret this. I didn't answer, because regret had been my shadow for years. And that morning it finally stopped following me. Hours passed before the next blow came. The first was an email, a forwarded notice from Ryan's college. Tuition overdue. Immediate payment required to avoid cancellation. Then another, from the insurance company. Policy update required. Primary account holder removed. By afternoon, the storm had arrived in full. Ryan burst through the front door, phone in hand, his voice already raised. You canceled my insurance? They said I can't even register my car now. You had no right. I looked up from my desk. You said I have no rights. I'm just honoring your words. You can't just do this. I'll call Mom. She already knows. He turned to Emily, standing frozen in the doorway. You let him do this? Tears welled in her eyes. Ryan, please. This is messed up. He's ruining my life. I stood, walked toward him. No, Ryan. I'm showing you what your life actually costs. His hands trembled as he gestured at me. You're a monster. You actually enjoy this. Do I look like I'm enjoying it? I asked quietly. I've given you everything, and all I asked for was respect. You gave me contempt. So now you get reality. He stared at me, jaw trembling. I'll call Dad. Good, I said. Tell him he can finally be one. He stormed off again, door slamming upstairs. Emily followed, pleading. I stayed downstairs, watching the sun fall across the table, long and golden and indifferent. That evening, the house was silent, the kind of silence that hums with withheld tears. Then the phone rang. Emily answered. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Tom. I could hear him from across the room. Loud, angry, defensive. What the hell is going on over there? He shouted through the speaker. Ryan just called me saying you people cut him off. I took the phone from her hand. That's right. He's your son, Tom. You've got his name, his love, and his loyalty. Now you've got his bills too. There was a pause. Then laughter, bitter, disbelieving. Are you serious? You can't just dump this on me out of nowhere. I didn't dump anything, I said evenly. I handed back what was never mine to begin with. Don't play this game, he snapped. I've got my own expenses. So did I said. For years. He tried to argue, but his words stumbled. When the silence came, I let it hang. You've wanted to be the only father in his life. Congratulations. The title's all yours now, and so is the responsibility. I hung up before he could reply. Emily's face was pale. You can't just. I already did, I said. She stared at me like she was seeing me for the first time, the man behind all the patience, stripped of the disguise of forgiveness. The next morning, Ryan didn't come down for breakfast. Neither did Emily. The house felt like an empty stage after the actors have forgotten their lines. By noon, Ryan's footsteps thundered down the stairs. Dad's furious, he said, eyes rimmed red. He says he can't afford all this. He says you're trying to screw him over. I looked up from my coffee. Then he finally understands how I felt. You can't do this, Ryan repeated, voice breaking now. You can't just walk away like that. I'm not walking away, I said quietly. I'm letting go. Emily appeared behind him, pleading with her eyes. Please, just fix this. Pay the tuition, the insurance, just until the semester ends. I shook my head. No, if I fix this, nothing changes. He'll keep spitting on me, and you'll keep asking me to forgive him. I'm done teaching lessons no one wants to learn. Ryan's voice cracked into a shout. You're ruining my life. No, I said. I'm revealing it. He stood there, trembling, chest heaving. You're pathetic. You think this makes you strong? You're just proving I was right. You're not my dad. I smiled, cold and empty. Exactly. He left again, but the sound of his anger lingered in the walls long after the door shut. That night, the phone rang again. Tom. I didn't pick up. The voicemail was a tirade of half-threats and guilt. He wanted me to undo what I'd done, to be the bigger man. I deleted it without listening to the end. Around midnight, the house went quiet. Emily sat on the couch, her face hidden behind her hands. You're breaking this family apart, she whispered. I looked at her. No, Emily. It was already broken. I'm just refusing to keep paying for the pieces. Her shoulders shook. What about love? What about trying again? Love isn't free, I said softly. And respect is the price. She said nothing after that. I went upstairs, past Ryan's closed door, past the silence that had taken root in every corner of the house. In my study, I looked at the family photo still pinned to the wall, the four of us smiling, Ryan looking away from the camera. I took it down, stared at it for a long time, then set it face down on the desk. For the first time in years, I didn't feel angry. I felt awake. The bill had come due, and for once I wasn't the one paying it. The house was quiet for 3 days. Not peaceful. Just silent in the way a burned-out church is silent after the flames. No arguments, no footsteps, not even the sound of the refrigerator humming. Emily spoke little, moving through rooms like someone mourning a death no one dared to name. Ryan stopped eating with us. Sometimes I'd hear his door creak open at midnight, the refrigerator door click, then his footsteps retreating upstairs. Ghost movements from a boy who didn't yet understand what loss meant. On the 4th morning, the storm finally broke. I was sitting at the kitchen table, reading emails when the doorbell rang. The sound was sharp, urgent. Emily looked up from her coffee, eyes swollen, shoulders heavy, and whispered, "That'll be him." It was. Tom stood on the porch, his face drawn tight with irritation and something close to fear. His shirt was wrinkled, his eyes bloodshot. He looked like a man dragged into daylight before he was ready. "You and I need to talk," he said, stepping inside without being invited. Emily tried to say something, but he waved her off. His focus was fixed on me. "You had no right," he began. "No right to dump all this on me. I got calls from the college, the insurance, even the goddamn phone company. You've put everything in my name." "That's correct," I said, keeping my tone calm. He stared at me, disbelief twisting into anger. "You think this makes you a man? You think this proves something?" I stood slowly, met his eyes. "It proves that words have weight. Your son said I'm not his father. You've spent years letting him believe that. Now I've given him the truth, and you the bill." He took a step closer, voice rising. "You can't just." "I already did," I said. "You wanted to be the father in name. Now be it in action." He glared at me for a long time, then laughed bitterly. You're insane. You've poisoned that kid against everyone. He's terrified, you know that? He doesn't even know how to talk to me. You did that. No, I said quietly. You did that by disappearing. I just stopped pretending you hadn't. Emily's voice broke between us. Stop it. Both of you. Tom turned to her, desperate now. Do you have any idea what this costs? You expect me to pay for college? For his car? For? Yes, I said. That's what fathers do. He froze, mouth half open. The words stuck in his throat. Emily closed her eyes. Please stop. Ryan's upstairs. He can hear you. Good, I said. He should hear this. He should know what fatherhood actually sounds like. Two men arguing over who has to care for him, not who wants to. Tom took a step back, shaking his head. You're unbelievable. I've been a lot of things, I said. Unbelievable isn't the worst. He left then, slamming the door behind him so hard the walls shook. Emily sank into a chair, face buried in her hands. What have we become? She whispered. A family, I said, finally honest enough to show its cracks. She didn't reply. That night, Ryan came downstairs. His eyes were red, his voice raw. Dad came by, he said quietly. I know. He said you're trying to destroy him. I looked at him. No, Ryan. I'm trying to make him visible. He hesitated, swallowing hard. He can't afford any of it. He said he'll try, but I don't think he can. I nodded. Then maybe you'll understand what it took to afford you all these years. He flinched, his lip trembling. I didn't mean what I said before. You did, I said. And that's what makes it real. He shook his head. I was just angry. I didn't mean. Ryan, I interrupted, my tone firm but not cruel. You said I wasn't your dad, that I'm just a man who pays bills. So I stopped paying. That's not anger. That's alignment. He looked down, tears welling. Please, I'm sorry. The apology hung in the air like smoke. Fragile, dissipating before it could settle. Sorry doesn't erase what you believed, I said. It just means you've started to feel the consequences of it. Emily appeared in the doorway, arms crossed, her voice trembling. He's trying. Can't you see that? I've seen enough trying, I said. Now I want change. Ryan took a step closer. I'll get a job. I'll pay for things myself. Just don't hate me. Hate you, I said softly. No, Ryan. Hate would mean I still cared enough to fight. What I feel now is distance, and distance is permanent. He broke then, tears spilling down his cheeks. You were supposed to be better than him, he whispered. I was, I said, until I realized being better didn't matter. He turned away, shoulders shaking, and went back upstairs. Emily glared at me, tears in her eyes. You think this is strength? You're just as cruel as Tom. Maybe, I said, but cruelty with reason still beats kindness that gets mocked. She didn't speak to me for 2 days after that. By the weekend, the calls started. Tom again, demanding explanations, threatening lawyers, promising payback. I ignored them all. Ryan spent most of the time locked in his room, his arrogance replaced with a kind of hollow quiet. He wasn't defiant anymore. He was scared. Sunday evening, I found him sitting on the porch steps. The sun was setting, the air thick and gold. He didn't look up when I joined him. I called Dad, he said. He said he can't help anymore. He told me to figure it out. I nodded. Then maybe you finally met the real version of him. He looked at me then, eyes wet but steady. You were right. I didn't reply. He wiped his face with the back of his hand. I said horrible things to you. Yes, I said. And I don't know how to fix it. Maybe you start by realizing some things can't be fixed, only lived with. He nodded slowly. I want to earn it back. Respect. He nodded again. I took a deep breath. Then you earn it the same way I lost it. Through actions, not words. He didn't speak again. We sat in silence until the sun disappeared, the air cooling around us. Later that night, I found Emily standing in the kitchen, looking at an old photo of us. The four of us smiling, pretending. She placed it back on the counter like something fragile. "I never thought it would come to this," she said. "Neither did I admitted. She looked up at me. "Do you still love me?" "I do," I said. "But love without respect doesn't last. It just limps." She turned away, tears spilling down her face. "You've changed." "No," I said. "I've stopped pretending." Days passed, then weeks. Slowly, something in the house began to shift. Not warmth exactly, but structure. Ryan got a job at a hardware store, started fixing things around the house. Small gestures, quiet efforts. When he spoke, it was softer, almost careful. Emily started meeting my eyes again, though guilt still lingered in hers. Jake noticed the change too. Less shouting, more space to breathe. The chaos had cooled into something colder but cleaner. One evening, Ryan came home early from work. He set an envelope on the table, a pay stub. "First one," he said. I nodded. "Good." He hesitated, then added, "I'll pay for my phone this month." For the first time in months, I felt something loosen in my chest. Not forgiveness, not yet, but a beginning. "All right," I said quietly. "We'll see how long you keep that up." He smiled, faint but real. "You'll see." That night, as I sat alone on the porch, the cicadas buzzing in the dark, I thought about everything we'd been through. Every fight, every insult, every line crossed and finally redrawn. Respect, I realized, isn't built on love. It's built on loss. Sometimes people have to watch something collapse before they understand what held it up. I didn't want revenge. I wanted clarity, and I'd found it. Now the name Davis means something again. Not a burden, not a paycheck, but a boundary. It stands for the truth I learned the hardest way possible. You can give everything to people who call you nothing. But the day you stop giving, they finally see what you were worth. So tell me, was I wrong to make them face that? Or was this the only way to teach them that love without respect is just debt waiting to come due?